call this meeting in order and stand for the pledge, if you please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an unscheduled or unagended beginning of the meeting, which will be more fun than probably the rest of the
in the
meeting.
rest of the meeting, so
Glenn, you get that one.
and I volunteered to, with Joe being out, to take over and cover that. What we had is some very good news. A couple grant applications we put in came through. We have with us tonight here one of our grant recipients there, and Jessica Standard in the back, and I'll be reading something off and letting you know what you had for your grant. We also had another one here. They may still be coming, and that would be Joe and Caroline Laramie. So we also got members of our Economic Development Committee came here because they help out a lot, and Judy and Cindy. But before I cover that, just briefly talk a bit about this grant. This is Building Better Communities grant, and we've been, for 4 years, we've been putting businesses and helping businesses put in for these grants. And over those 4 years, we've been successful in getting 7 grants for a total of $72,200 that go directly into our local businesses to make them go. So it's a pretty cool deal. We had 2 different categories that we were able to get the grants out this time. The first one, Jessica and let's see if I get it right. The Places You'll Grow daycare and early education facility. And I just want to read briefly of the notice that they sent us back because I thought it was very good. It was, congratulations on behalf of Governor Phil Scott and the Vermont General Assembly and the Human Services and Educational Facilities Grants Committee. It's our greatest pleasure to inform you that your organization has been selected to receive a Building Communities Grant Award in the amount of $12,000. And this is to install a sprinkler system to your existing daycare facility. So I just want to say congratulations. And we also have, I can say anything I want. I should put it in writing. So we have a nice little letter stating that you've got the
Thank
grant.
you.
So again,
Thank you.
congratulations. On our second one, I don't know if the Laramies are going to make it, but I want to still, I'll repeat it, but I want to continue that one on. We had in another area, the Caroline and Joe Laramie from Fall Mountain Wines put in under another category for economic development. And that one read, congratulations on behalf of Governor Phil Scott, the General Assembly, and the Regional Economic Development Grants Committee. It's our great pleasure to inform you that your organization has been selected to receive a Building Communities Grants Award in the amount of $10,000. And that's in behalf of the Fall Mountain Wines. And it's to put a deck installation around a new wine tasting area here on Scotch Hill. So we're adding things, so it was kind of nice. We put 3 business applications in and got 2 out of the 3 in 2 different categories. So I feel pretty good, and I can every now and then I can be a little rough on the state of Vermont and how they support or don't support. I just want to say this is a great example of Vermonters helping Vermonters make things work. So this is a good thing. And that's all we have.
Yes, sir.
We haven't met in a while.
Nice to meet you.
Jessica also received another award. Have they announced that?
I don't know.
Okay. Jessica was nominated as a Rising Star for the state of Vermont, and she was awarded that. And you're going up to dinner sometime.
I can't make dinner because daycare doesn't close until 5 and I'm low staff right now, so I can't make dinner.
There are very few Rising Stars selected in the state of Vermont. I think there were 40 statewide, and Jessica is one of those Rising Stars.
Well,
So yeah, very good. Very good. I'll give your meeting back to you there now.
well, I think. Next is amendments to the agenda. Anybody got anything? I will just say there, in, executive session, there'll be discussion of legal. So with that, somebody would be so kind as to add that to the motion.
I'll make a motion to add under executive session, legal discussion under 1 VSA 313A1.
A1, okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now Lyle and company are here from Cedar.
Thank you very much.
And
So Olivia Lyons is here with me, and we are from the Chamber of Economic Development of the Rutland Region. I'm the executive director there, and Olivia is our communications and marketing manager. And we come to you once a year to talk about our regional marketing initiative and where we stand with bringing people to the region. We still have issues with employers not having a deep enough pool of employees to draw upon. And so we continue to reach out, and Olivia has put together some information that she would like to share with you. But before we do that, because I know Bob is always asks the right question, which is, what else are you doing for the Fairhaven region? And I appreciate the question. And so
Beat
I
me
took
to it.
notes on my way over.
you beat me to it.
One thing that I know you're thinking a little bit about is your energy project, and I'd love to be brought up to speed on that at some point. Because today I talked with folks, one individual from the state of Vermont, and you've probably heard of the tax increment finance districts. Killington got one, Rutland's working on one, you can get 2 of those per county. But what we're also working on is what's called, and I've got to read it because I always get it wrong, but a project-based TIF. And it's a tax increment financing, it's a long process, I could bore you with it, it would take an hour to explain the whole thing. But it allows municipalities to draw down some of the funding that you would normally send to the state through taxation, that the state then asks you to pay them, and you get to use it on regional projects, like infrastructure projects. So what we're lobbying for, and we may come back to you and ask you to help us do this, is to have the project-based TIFs approved at the state level. The legislature would have to approve those, but it would allow for smaller projects like a project that you're working on. It wouldn't have to be a $50 million project. It could be $1.5 million or a $3 million project. And so I'd love to come back at some point, once we kind of get this kick-started with the legislature, because we will need some communities to say, yes, we've got a project and we'd like to have you consider our project. So there are no guarantees, obviously, but we will come back and talk to you about that at some point. Also, I was gonna bring up Jessica, but you already did, so that was great. Working also with Zion Growers, and one of the things that Olivia is working on, and you've probably heard about Zion Growers, they were working with the Sheldon Farms for their hemp operation. We've been supporting them in purchasing the Proctor building and helping them fill that with other manufacturers. We're in the process of working with them on that right now. That's an 86,000 square foot facility that they don't need all of, and so we're excited that they're working with local farmers, and we expect that they'll be working with many farmers locally as they are in St. Johnsbury and their other facility. So Olivia, you did some work with them. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so I went to the farm while they were harvesting, and I interviewed Travis Samuels, and we just put out a short video on him talking about being in Fairhaven and farming, and we'll put together a longer video that will also go out sometime soon.
And you're also doing some videos that you and Joe hook up, and you are connecting some of the businesses here with other videos.
Yes, so I've already interviewed Jessica, and I'll have a video about her and her daycare coming out. And then I also interviewed Rachel Meeks at the brewery, and I'll have a video coming out about that as well.
So we're doing some things to hopefully drive some traffic in this direction economically and get people interested in Fairhaven. So the biggest thing could be that project-based TIF, if we could do something that would allow you to retain some of the tax dollars that you normally send to the state and put them into infrastructure here. Again, no guarantees, but we're gonna come and we'll look for communities like yours that are the perfect size, that have a project in mind that we can use as an example to bring to the legislature. So just a couple things, but what we were on the agenda to really talk about was regional marketing. And we are now entering year 7. And we'll walk you through this. Let me just pass that along there. And so if you wouldn't mind, I'll walk you through the left-hand side of this first. So the left-hand side is meet our staff. And we do have 5.5 staff members. And behind that, you are going to see an invitation to our annual meeting and the grand opening of the Hub Co-works on November 14th, that's Monday. It's a 22,000 square foot co-working facility that will have a business incubator built into that. Our goal is to specifically incubate tech economy jobs and businesses, specifically around computer-based businesses, but we certainly will support any business that would needs support. The Hub Co-works is merely a facility. It was the Opera House in downtown Rutland, and it's also the entire second floor of Merchants Row, where we have small office spaces. We will have 2 telepresence-ready classrooms. We're going to have a podcasting room, and we're working with a company called Tacitly, which will open up about a 600 square foot virtual reality lab. And I would encourage you to go online and just type in virtual reality. It's pretty amazing what's happening out there, not necessarily just in gaming, but in education and training. And there's a great need for software development around that. So we will have a virtual reality lab there. Working closely with a lot of different organizations, and I would love to have you come over and take a look at that facility. Right now, it's just a building. We need to put the right things in. We're very fortunate to get an EDA grant that, along with matching funding, we have $1.5 million to spend over the next 3 years on programming equipment to get that really humming as a business development facility. But why we're really here, Brooklyn cuts me off, is on the right-hand side. We're here to respectfully request, and you know when you see me that I'm asking for money. Last year you provided us with $1,000 towards the regional marketing initiative. We're here this year to ask the same of the town. We couldn't do it without the towns and our corporate donors. But we want to tell you a little bit what is happening and how we're doing the campaigns and how we're getting people to come here. And one example of that is our weekend getaway program. And that is the next thing after Mr. Audette's picture there. And Olivia can tell you about the weekend getaway program.
So our most recent campaign was the Real Rutland Weekend Getaway. We invited 4 families for just about an all-inclusive weekend here in Rutland County. So we began on social media, putting it out. It reached over 400,000 people. Of those eyes, we had just about 450 people apply, and then 30 very serious candidates interviewed with me. And these are candidates who actually see themselves moving here, not just, I want a free weekend in Vermont, but they are excited about the opportunity to come here, check it out, learn more, and then potentially move here. So the families we got were from LA, California, Austin, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Manhattan. And they came up on a Thursday, they stayed up in Killington, we had a meet and greet with them, introduced them to a realtor, and then on Friday, they had kind of loose itineraries and they were able to just go about the county on their own. They didn't want to hold their hand and make them go certain places. But they did all take part in a scavenger hunt that took them to every single town within the county so they could really understand all of Rutland County and try to figure out where they see themselves fitting in the most. One of our families that came, they actually ended up putting an offer on a house in Pittsburgh. It didn't pan out, but they're still looking and hoping to move soon. And we hope to do it again in the future because it was a big success. So that was,
Where did they visit in Fairhaven, do you recall?
they came to the park. Joe said to send them there, which
And they had
it
to
is
take
one of the
pictures
prettiest
wherever
parks.
they went, they had to bring the pictures back and show us, you know, you went to at least this number of places, so, and they enjoyed doing that. And they won a prize for doing it.
So overall, not just including that campaign, we have had over 200 individuals move to Rutland County, to more than 10 towns within Rutland County. And they are coming from places that we targeted for the weekend getaway, which is on this piece of paper here. Most of them are from warmer climates, and they're coming here because it is cooler and you don't have the landslides and wildfires. So these are kind of our target market areas that we see the most people coming from. And on the last page here, with this graph, this is to just show that campaigns work when we do run them. So the blue graph here is when we're not running a campaign, and the green graph is when we are running a campaign.
This is where I'm supposed to say, and campaigns cost money. And so that's what we want to talk to you about tonight, to remind you how important it is, your support is in all of that. And to go back to something Olivia said, and I think we need to remind ourselves, sometimes we're our worst enemy about where we live. You know, we say, well, this is bad or that is bad. We need to remind ourselves that we don't have the wildfires, and we do have fresh air, and we do have the lakes and the streams, and that's what people are after. They're coming to us. The couple that went kayaking went on Chittenden Reservoir. It was 38 degrees. And we worried the night before. We said, I don't know that you're gonna wanna go kayaking at 38 degrees. They loved it. They were from California. They left 102-degree weather. They had their parkas. They were ready to go. And they saw a rainbow and they were in heaven. So we expected we're gonna see them again. If you look at how we're spending the money, because we wanna be very transparent, the very last page of that shows our budget. Shows you that we are looking for about $34,000 from municipalities, including Fairhaven, thank you. And our business community really is the biggest sponsor of the program. They recognize they need employees. And they are all the logical suspects. When I say Cactus Cellar, when I say Rutland Regional Medical Center, they're all in on this stuff, because they know they need employees. If you look at Rutland Regional Medical Center website, at any time they have 120 openings, from doctors to nurses to all different folks. So the biggest part of the marketing is personnel and getting it out on social media. It does cost money. Our personnel time, social media, quite frankly, is pretty cheap, but you have to keep doing it and you have to do a lot of it. And it does cost money. You're gonna see here that we do buy locally as well. And first I should say, everything on here, other than the regional media buys outside the state of Vermont, the money stays local, stays right in the state of Vermont, stays right in Rutland County. We do advertising locally, primarily in Killington during the ski season. And our slogan there is, you can't get to 100 days unless you live here. So you can't ski for 100 days unless you live here. And we try to encourage people to connect with our concierge service. We have 30 volunteers who are part of our concierge service, and we have a concierge coordinator, so that if Olivia is from San Diego, California, and we interview her because she has a question by clicking on the link at realrutland.com, we'll connect her, Carly Haven will connect her, who is our coordinator, will connect Olivia with someone her age, her demographic, just making this up, has 3 kids, she's a doctor or whatever. We're going to connect Olivia with someone who works at Rutland Regional Medical Center, is of her same demographic, because they'll be able to talk to each other about their common questions. And we get all those questions you would expect. What are snow tires? Why do you use fuel oil? You know, all that stuff. And we have to answer questions we think everyone would know, but why would you know?
And when you bring people in, is it usually a Thursday, Friday, or what's the time? See, I'm trying to maximize, instead of just saying go to the park. If it's Thursday, we have a farmer's market, we have a concerts in the park. If it's Friday, we have the street market, and you have the brewery, and they usually have some kind of food truck. And we also have a really nice dog park that was just put in for, we are pet friendly as well. So we definitely be willing to, if when you know that's happening in the future, you reach out, we can I think we can do better than just go to the park.
Okay, I talked to Joe about it, and since it was, they'll probably be doing it Friday through maybe Sunday, what is a good option to do any of those days? That is good to know. This was the first time we did it, so they came in on Thursday and they left on Sunday. But definitely, if there's something going on.
Oh, that's usually when you have something
There is.
during the summer, when you have something going on.
You gotta hit their car park.
We picked a time of year when it was kind of a shoulder season, so we could get better rates at Killington, and then we looked around at that weekend, and the Holy Chili Cook-Off was that weekend, and there were just some other things that we were able to get people to, so. And we'll be doing that again, for sure.
Good, very good, but great stuff, good.
Well, the thing about Fairhaven particularly is it has a lot to offer because it's close to a lot of things. I mean, a 35-mile trip to Killington is not a big deal for people who understand commuting. So they don't really care about that. And we've got lakes all over the place. We've got mountains, we've got trails, we've got all that stuff that's happening. So we're centrally located, and we would appreciate your presence and for promotion here. I would be. Joe said that Olivia, you were going to do, as you mentioned, the videos of women in business.
Mm-hmm.
You go downtown. I think you hit every door that's open. I think they're all women. I think it's all women owners, and pretty much, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't, you can hit a successful woman in Fairhaven on every doorstep, and so we've got a lot to offer. The park is absolutely a great place to be, but there's a lot other than that too. Business-wise, when do you need a decision on money? We're missing one selectman right now.
Business-wise, meaning,
When do you need to know that you have money coming from us?
I believe the way Fairhaven does it is that Joe put it in the budget if you approve
Yep.
that.
Right,
And so then we
March.
just wait until
Okay.
that money is available.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you weren't.
This is kind of for next year. This
Yeah,
is-
nobody's gonna write you a check tonight.
Right.
I promise.
Told you.
And, as I say every year to you, come on this side of Birdseye and see what's going on, because there's a lot going on.
We definitely have fun.
I think you went to the open house with the childcare, with Crispin. Did Crispin come to the economic development committee meeting?
We've had Crispin, we've had, we need to get you more, we had folks from your office at least three times.
Great.
Bob, I'll
Yeah.
attest to the fact that if you reach out to Lyle and have Lyle speak up, they get right back to you, all of them. So they are a huge resource to all of us out here.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that. I really am, because when we make the case here for budgetary, it's a tight year, as you well know, as everybody well knows. So it's everything we spend has to show some sort of return, and that's what we're looking for sure.
Well, and if you need, leave another one of these folders, then
We
someone's
would.
not here.
Yeah.
If you need us to come back and talk at some point, more than
Oh,
willing to do
we
that.
definitely want to talk some more about because we have some shovel-ready projects.
I'd love to hear more on the TIF
Yeah.
project, and especially with the energy project that we're looking at as well, and it all fits nicely.
So I'm gonna be speaking with it's called the BEPSI board, whatever it stands for, that is in charge of the TIFs. I'm gonna be speaking with the chair of that board. And, I don't know exactly when legislature's not in session, but we need to begin to think about what that language is gonna look like, so that we can put something in front of them. So it would not be immediately, but we're gonna look for some projects, so. And I thought of what I was reading about out here with your power, so.
Got several different things going on that could certainly could qualify.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
You'll be offended if we leave?
No,
No,
thank you for coming and talking.
I was
to us.
I was gonna suggest to the grantees that they don't have to hang around just to be polite. You already got your money, you can, you can dust.
As long as it takes. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good thinking. All right. Get the propaganda out of the way here.
I want to make sure we get it right.
Okay, we have two health officer candidates. Jenna's here and
One's
I
on,
think there's one here, I'll just ask to unmute.
we have one online.
one online who is, as a health officer. is-
Yep.
Yes, I was muted, sorry.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
So, I think all we're going to do is, just, have you give yourselves each a chance to introduce yourself to us. We will discuss, in private our, what we end up doing. We'll do that in our, executive session. But we'd love to hear a little bit about you. Sarah Trombley is online, and you can go first if you'd like. Just quick introduction and your background, and we'll go from there. Questions will come later.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I'm a bachelor's registered nurse. And as far as background, I've worked a lot with communities. I used to work for mental health, doing a lot of outreach programs with them. And I've been a nurse for about 5 years now. I currently work at Serenity House in Wallingford. And I am just very passionate about this town. I've lived here for about 3 years now, and I'm just very passionate about making the town safer, healthier. I have 3 children, different ages, 16 months, 10 years, and 17-year-old. And I'm just really excited to be helping out with the town, and would love to just be able to make it healthier and safer and just be more active with the town.
Thank you. John?
Well, as most of you know, I'm John Sigmund. Got, I don't know if you want to say promoted or talked into by Joe of doing the deputy health officer under John Lizick. And beginning to learn a lot. I've been resident now of Fairhaven for almost 5 years. The one thing that I've seen that lacks here, that really needs a little kick in the butt, is community involvement. I mean, you need to get people involved in a community. I have a vast background in the fire service safety programs. I was a former paramedic for years. Worked under law enforcement with using bloodhounds for man trailing. I've been a jack of all trades and a master of none, but I've always been involved with community efforts. When I moved to Vermont, which I still refer to as Mayberry, it's nice, it's relaxing compared to where I came from. I came from a city of 17,000 people, and it's nice to relax a little bit and appreciate what you have in front of you. And that's the biggest thing about Vermont. It's very appreciative, and I just want to make it a safe place as it should be. I just want to be involved in the community, and I feel with my experience I'd be a great asset to the community in emergency services.
Thanks, John. Are there any questions for either of the candidates?
No question, but comment. Just want to recuse myself and acknowledge that I am Sarah's employer outside of town business. So I'm going to recuse myself on any decision-making process with this position.
Thanks, I appreciate that, that's probably the right one. John?
I'm working with John. Well, my last day was yesterday, but I've got a lot of loose ends going on, and I'm gonna use him as the deputy health officer to try to tie up some of these things and get them finished.
I have one question. It's nice to have two volunteers, and I hate to lose a volunteer. If the person isn't successful being the health officer, would they consider being the deputy health officer?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Great. That's great. Because it's really nice to have two people on there to begin with. It's really great to have two volunteers. This is a difficult job. We know that.
I've got a box of 35 years of experience.
Oh dear God. You're gonna give that to the
Yes.
successful candidate?
Don't do it for you to-
Run away.
I don't have a question for either, but more of a question for the health officer, John, who's going out. When a new health officer comes in, does the state offer any certification or training to help?
Program coming up, and that brings up something that if you're gonna have somebody on the line, that the deputy and also maybe the health officer both should go to it.
Mhm.
And on my phone, I've been having, this is budget time, and I've been kind of researching around, and it looks like most health officers get a stipend, they get an hourly rate, and they get mileage when they go to these type of things.
So the process, the way the chair of the board is gonna put it, is we're going to talk about this in executive session. We appreciate you guys volunteering, and we will get back in touch with you. Theoretically, both of you are hired.
Never
really-
turn help away.
No, never.
I understand what
Never
you're saying.
pass up a volunteer, and we really appreciate the interest, because this has become a very crucial job lately,
Mhm.
and it's a tough job, because you're up close and personal with the people in town that sometimes don't
Just
want.
to give you an idea, I'm putting in about 28 to 32 hours a week here the last 4 or 5 months.
Well, that's a lot. We don't want you to work that lot, but if it happens, it won't happen often. That I promise.
Well, with the current situation that we're in.
I know. Don't be chasing off our volunteers, John.
It could be lucrative if you do it right.
Oh, well,
I just pick it up.
so that's where we're at. I really appreciate you calling in, and John for being here, and thank you, Sarah. Now, we will move on, and we will notify you guys of our decision quickly. Okay?
Well, appreciate your time and thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
This isn't that heavy, Bob, you know, you could probably carry it.
Okay. All right, so we will be doing that at the end of the meeting. In the meantime, we will move on. And thank you. I think we're all ready to approval of the minutes.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 18th as written.
Second.
Any additions, deletions, corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That was October 18th?
October 18th.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. 5 minutes for public discussion. The public.
We had fire and safety doing an inspection on one of the problems we had, and, they brought up a point to me that I was talking about when I got my fire plate on the truck, and the guy said to me, he says, "Did the town ever get the fire alarm system put into the building and working?" I said, "Yes, and it's working." So somebody should let those people know that that happened,
Into what building?
this one,
Oh. Okay.
right around the corner through that door.
Mhm. We will do that. Anything else?
Nope, not what I can bring up here in this part of the session.
All right, been remiss, I should have introduced Liz, who is, our financial person, for lack of a better term, but the bookkeeper, and she is filling in for when we need administrative and monetary and financial, information tonight, because Joe is on vacation. Thank you. Thanks for the
Thank you.
extra time you gotta put in. Department head reports. Chief?
I put the 2-week report in your box. If you look, we had 8 arrests in the last 2 weeks. I would say out of the 8, 6 of them were the same 2 people every day. It seems to be the revolving door, we're back into that. Trying to address that, met with the county, the SA and all law enforcement today, and that was brought up with the SA, and they said that's a common problem with the courts system, the way it is right now. Similar to the individual that we had last year doing all the car breaks, he's still doing them, got arrested again recently in Rutland if you weren't paying attention. So it's basically the same people over and over and over, every day. Motor vehicle this week we did, or 2 weeks we did 54, traffic violations, 11 violations, 3 parking violations and 2 car crashes. 26 sets of civilian fingerprints. I did a review up, if anybody had looked at, if you had any questions of activity in the last 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks was just very busy. I can't really put my finger on it, we're just running. It seems like, and again, it goes back to those 3 or 4 people who do every serving no trespassing for everything. Most of them are them. I gotta go find them and serve at different locations. So we had 170 calls for service in the last 2 weeks, and we are at 3318 for the year. The 2 new crosswalk signs you guys authorized are up on Washington Street. I don't know if you guys like them or your thoughts on it. They seem to be pretty good. And I actually like it at night because you can see them quite a ways out. I think it's helping. Halloween was amazing. At one point, it took me 15 minutes to go from Carnarvon Street to Washington Street on 2nd Street. It was just, every parking lot was full. Free parking was full all along the park. There was just kids and people everywhere, and I think with the kind of COVID relief and just great weather, it was good. We had no problems, no incidents. We had four cars out, and we try to load up heavy so everybody sees us, and I think it's helpful. And then I just did a brief financial, that we brought in for revenue. It's on that report there. If anybody has any questions on anything there. I think that's all I have on reports.
Questions for the chief?
No, I'm good.
We're gonna get back to you with the highway safety, but one thing, I think we'll probably talk about this more when we do your budget, but, the dispatch, do you have any updates on that?
I don't, there's a working group still. Aaron meant to give you, he's actually on the working group. Sergeant Kerber representing our agency. He's representing Polk, but it's the same meetings. I know that they're still waiting on a legislative study, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong. And if the study goes, again, like I said before, the study could say we're staying status quo or we're gonna push forward. The sheriffs did apply for grant money reluctantly. I don't think they're 100% on board aligning it, but there really isn't anybody else. So I have no updates on financial piece, if it's going to happen, not going to happen. It feels like we're almost going to get, if it goes, force-fed at the last minute. And maybe Aaron can give you a quick.
Don't have too much more than that. I know, I believe the sheriff received the federal funds for consoles. So they're working forward in his facility in the city to be prepared with consoles ready to go online. The biggest piece will be that next piece of the grant that he just filed with the state, looking for the money to get the operation set up. The grant went out and all the requests were supposed to be in before the legislative working group came back with its findings of how the state's going to proceed. So the cart's still way out in front of the horse on this one as to whether that working group comes back and tells VSP and Department of Public Safety, no, you're gonna keep doing your job and figure out how to make it work, or they're just gonna say, yeah, go forward with the grant process, and just, if there's enough regional stuff set up or almost set up, I have a feeling they'll just push that over the edge and say it's not our baby anymore, so, financially wise, that's.
Well, I saw the
I
thing,
believe, from the way it sounds, is that the grant was allowed to come up with possibly the first year's funding of personnel, and that's the biggest component that the sheriff's been scared of, is the personnel costs, so, everyone is, cause that's the money. So, and there's no talk of how that, the money that's left over from this grant program, cause they only allocated so much of it to go out for this first round, and then some's kept in reserve for another round of something, they're not sure, we're not sure what they're gonna exactly do with that just yet either, so. Maybe they'll subsidize it for a while for us, but.
Yeah, it's really the funding mechanism. It's like, yeah, the grant money's great, but what happens after the first year or two and that money's gone? It's gonna come back to municipalities. And the governor's been all about no property taxes, so I don't know where they think municipalities are gonna get it from. It's gonna be property tax. Just, I know Washington County, I did speak to them because they operate a similar, and they told me their budget's 1.5 million. That's for every town in the county, that's police, fire, EMS, for everything. So, to do it comparable here, and we're comparable on the number of agencies, and then fire departments would be 1.5 million, and that would be divided out over all the towns, apparently.
yeah, I saw a small town that was anticipating an annual budget of $75,000 or more. That's
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. So
On
whatever you hear.
On my end, which would parlay possibly into a little bit for the fire department here, and possibly some of EMS, is that for us in Pontley, the only outlier would be, the constable, who needs the dispatch piece through VSP. The same is here for the PD, that funding would have to come in because they need that service. Whereas the fire department here, as well as EMS, I think is paying, or it's like 50% covered from Washington County. We pay Washington County already to do that. I'm talking with my legislative body in the House down in Pontley, is anything that comes through the ranking that would be a county tax, they would do the best we can to write an exemption in for the or the area, the municipalities that have another dispatch source already, that they would not pay into that, hopefully into that county tax towards that. So that does help, but doesn't help, because if he's, if the fire department's already covered, that means they're gonna be looking for a lot of money that would just end up hitting PD side, so.
I think you have to look at, the only sustainable would be to increase that county tax number, because, for instance, if you have an agency that no longer exists, you might have a town that makes that decision, and, okay, so now we're not paying. So the sheriff, and I think this is the sheriff's concern, is that because Fairhaven's gone, or Castleton's gone, or Killington, or wherever, says, we're not doing it. And so now they're stuck with the same amount of manpower to run 24 hours a day, and then you have less agencies dropping off.
And a lot of his was county tax, or it's gonna be long-term contracts. It's not 1 or 2 year contracts, you're talking 10+ year contracts for him, so so he can project it and keep it sustainable. Otherwise, it'll end up in the same boat that VSB is right now, where they haven't funded it properly for the last how many years and driven it right into the water.
They can't get manpower. Well, they did move it to Westminster. There's nothing there. That's the problem. And the closest agency is Keene, and that's where everybody's going. All the dispatchers get their experience, and they're going across the line to make more money. So I think all they're doing is kicking the problems back to here, and then the sheriff is gonna struggle to find bodies, because obviously the sheriff's department doesn't offer the benefits that a state agency would. I just don't see it being, it's just my experience, it being, I think they're transferring one problem to somebody else is what it's coming. And that might be what I think I talked to you guys before, where you guys have to get a little more involved on town boards, not just this board, but, you guys are legislators, and let's see how, help us solve the problem.
Well, the other end of it is, or the question we're not gonna have to deal with that in this budget. It's
Don't
probably,
think so.
yeah.
I think
So,
I put a small
nobody's-
placeholder in the budget like I did before.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Not that I know.
And you're gonna let us know when you need us to be more active in this discussion. Good.
Should we anticipate it though?
At some point,
At some-
it's all dependent on when that study comes out. If that study recommends yes, then that's gonna be the point where we seriously gotta start looking at how we're gonna fund it, if we're gonna fund it. And then if the study says, no, it's the state's problem,
Study, I believe, is supposed to be compiled and ready by before the end of this year.
I think it was January 23, right?
Was it? Yeah, I think it's supposed to be in by December or something, or I think before legislation is ready to start back again, they're supposed to have a finance ready for them, so.
Well, more to follow. Mike?
At the water plant, an update on the chemical tanks. The old ones have been dismantled and disposed of. We're waiting tentatively, or at least the date that I was given, sometime the end of November. As soon as they get here, we're ready to start putting them right in and getting them online. We're just using totes right now to get us through. So everything is looking good as far as that project goes. We're still having some of our electrical issues, but we're moving forward, looking into those. Jeff is taking more training classes to try to get his certification out of the way. And other than that, things are going pretty good. I mean, water's still flowing downhill.
That's a good thing. Good.
If it stops doing that, we're all in trouble.
That's my feelings too, so everything that is good.
Liz, do you have anything that, from?
Do you want me to go over the town manager now? So we're,
Don't we have the regular DPW? Aaron's gonna give an update of what's going on the roads, what are they doing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
then
sorry.
we'll do
You were talking and I just assumed that.
Yeah.
Sorry about
On the highway end, so as I'm sure everyone's aware, 4th Street, Furnace are paved, and we expended 30,000 plus a little or so on Scotch Hill to try and make some more of that passable. The guys were up there yesterday, today, trying to get crosswalks in on 4th Street. Hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, those crosswalks will be all in place. We're using the preformed thermo that we're torching down to the surface, see how well that stuff sticks. We did a test spot last year, at the end of 2nd Street. If you go up there, there's some chunks missing, but we're not going back to paint it this spring, next fall, or any of these times it's there. So hopefully this stuff will be just as nice and rugged as that stuff was, and it's something we touch up every now and again, not go out and paint every stinking year. As well as that fall grading has already been happening. The bigger roads are complete at this point. We have still the little stuff to get caught up on, the stuff on River Street. I think Woodland Drive down off West Street, as well as Benson Lane. So once we get more of that caught up, those ones will be done as well. The salt has started to arrive. Contract came in 2 weeks ago. This year's price on salt is up $15.30, I believe, a ton over last year. So the price is going to go through the roof one of these days. Is finally hit. So it's not looking good this year, except for the weather piece being nice for a long time here now. So it's nice for all aspects. But other than that, trucks are getting serviced, getting ready for that winter turnover. We do have marketing to complete up on South Main Street for the railroad crossing, because we did pave over a portion of that, as well as the yellow line up there. And we're trying to get a temporary yellow line up on Scotch Hill as well. Unfortunately, the way the pavement was so late, the contract with the state for their striper, their contract had already expired. However, the striping on 4th Street, I was able to con the state striping truck into doing that while they were doing the 4A section out here, so I just couldn't get them to do everything else at the same time. So you're just going straight. You just gotta stop the gun for about half a mile or whatever it is, and then just start it again. So they were able to do that for me, so it was very nice. Yeah, getting stuff ready for this winter turnover. There's a few items still left out. Catching up on that striping, catch basin that we want to get connected up on South Main for the drain pipe that comes off that back slate ledge area that a private owner had at dead ends before the catch basin up there. We want to make that connection all the way in the catch basin. We have a feeling that's part of that issue of that road having issues up there was the water comes down or comes through that pipe and doesn't get in that catch basin. It's been just going into our sub base of that road, and last year just the way the weather was destroyed that road on us. So that road did it 1.5 inches across both those lanes. So we went from, it was about 3 inches, maybe not even 3 inches when we did the digging last spring. So we're up to about 4.5 inches across that section now. So it should be easier and able to handle that traffic loading that's down there. Vermont Rail is looking to do the crossing improvements for Cedar, Pleasant, and Prospect over this week or next week. They're looking for closure on that. I told them Pleasant and Cedar wouldn't be an issue as long as you give me a day's heads up to let everybody in the area know that you're not going to be able to just zip from there to there. Prospect Street, I told them that's Vermont V-Trans, so get their blessing first, and I'll let the locals know that if you gotta go that way, you gotta go out around Swamp or over 4. I'm hoping those improvements will change that a little bit, so it's nicer going over those tracks than what it even is now. So that's about it for highway. Wastewater, we had sewer mainline flushing the week before last. A1 was in and did 3 days worth of flushing on sewer mains for us, to try and get our problem spots, make sure they were cleaned out. He said there wasn't a ton of areas where he found some issues. There was a couple spots where he found a plug here or there that was sitting there, but it hadn't caused an issue for somebody, but it wasn't flowing properly through. So those were cleared. And the note was that he had is that we usually traditionally do 5+ days of mainline flushing to try and flush everything out. With myself and Joe's blessing, I've been trying to work on reducing just as much as we flush everything out, to take some of that money and do some proactive work and fix some of the manholes that we know are issues. And that's why we have plugs, is because they're not being repaired. We're just flushing them when they're an issue. There's only a handful of spots left of the probably almost half dozen where I think we're down to 1 or 2 manholes that still need some good rehab work. So hoping that we do the 3 days of flushing that we usually do just to make sure everything's good, that we know is a problem. This spring we will hopefully spend the remainder of that money out of that sewer budget line for line repair, and actually affect the repair instead of just keep flushing it and letting it do its own thing. So it's been working so far. The guy from A1 said it's been nice going into these places and not having to fight the same issue that's always been there. He said I opened the hole and flush it out and there's nothing to fight with type deal. So that's helpful. Thank you everybody that came down to the plant for the walkthrough down there. Everything is still going very well down there. They're looking to do some of the gate repairs in the gate replacement in the contact chamber where the final effluent leaves the plant. So it would be nice weather Thursday, Friday for them to do that, so they're not freezing their fingers off down in that water. So Carrie has been moving stuff around, slowly adjusting stuff and trying to work out the new system. We have a quarterly meeting, I think it's the 9th or 10th of this month, to go over what has been happening at the plant in the last quarter with how it's handled the flows, how it's handled the chemical and biological systems in place, to see if there's anything more we can tweak or what we should be looking forward to tweaking some more. So hoping that brings a little bit more stuff to the table for her to play with down there to fine tune it even more. So I think that's all I have for you guys at the moment.
Question? Did you say you're completely done on 4th, or?
No, not completely. So it's paved.
Yeah.
Crosswalks they're working on now. We still
Right.
I did some backfilling on some of the shoulder work. We still have some shoulder stuff that
I hit something today I wasn't paying attention, so,
Yeah.
and I couldn't see when I was looking at review.
Some of
It
them
might be
catch
a-
basins are still low.
Yeah,
Still low.
yeah, that's probably what it
I
was.
think-
I just-
I don't think you got the inch ring on them yet,
So
right?
we had went with leaving them for now,
You
cause
did.
there was this scare of if we put them in and it's too high, then we're not catching water, so, if it continues to be a problem that we need, we already have in the back of our mind the not repair, but the plan to it, so we'll end up putting an inch ring on those. We'll end up using, so the same material that's down on the end of your street as well as Cedar Street, that mastic, that high performance
I was
rubber
wondering if-
mastic stuff, and just mastic those repair rings in that way, and they will.
I'm talking about the sewer cleanouts, not the DIs.
Not the DS.
The DIs
So
seem
there's-
okay. There was a
yeah.
couple of them
Yep.
low, but
There's, this side of Carnarvon, there's one or two manhole rings that'll be the same thing. They're off just enough that, so the adjustment rings are inch and a half, 2 inches. So if you put an inch on it and need an inch and a half, well, when the paper went over, it's too late. So what we'll end up doing is warming up that area, pulling that ring out, and whether it needs a 2 inch to come back where the inch was or an inch and a half, we can put that back in. The same thing, we'll take that mastic and mastic that ring back in, and make that smooth again, so.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Now,
Joe sent me some information that he wanted me to share with everybody, for his manager update. The first item is he sent notice to the state that we're returning the salt shed grant. The program manager said the federal government may or may not charge us for administration time. And they won't know this until we send the letter and they receive it. It could be as much as 16,000, but again, he wanted to emphasize that we really are not sure until the letter is sent. All of his grant reporting is completed for this quarter. The audit is expected by the end of November or early December. We did have a phone meeting with the owner of the audit company, and they are working on it. They have been short-staffed, and it's taken them a little bit longer to complete the task than they thought. The traffic ordinance, it needs to be reapproved and redocumented. I think the times in there were incorrect, in terms of the school zone traffic ordinance. The company doing the installation made changes the board requested to move the chargers to the park and ride. The electrical vehicle charging station installation project is now pushed off until spring, summer of '23 and is contingent upon the park and ride rehab.
So the original call to have on this side here, in multiple meetings now on site with both the electrical company, or GMP, and the electrical people doing the work. With all the grant work we have going on, the park and ride is the first one looking for completion. If they were gonna put them in the spot we had proposed originally, that is already designated for 2025 to get their reduced width on the lane and improved sidewalks down through there. So in 2 years, they're gonna be ripping them up to move them again. We've talked with multiple people and decided we're gonna put them back over in the park and ride, and there will be the northeastmost point of that, around the area of the cannon, that spot there.
The EV
But the way that,
things.
all that's laying out, that stuff's still moving so much down there that we can't even place the chargers there now based on curb line, because curb lines are moving enough down there. That one is designated for completion next year. So we're hoping that would all be able to tie back in. There's gonna be some revisions that have to come from that due to the fact that that north facing parking area is going to have a sidewalk all across the front of it. The chargers can't be on the back side of the sidewalk, because then now your cords are hanging across the crosswalk. So there's gonna be some redesign there, whether it be through the EV people and D&K. There'll be some talk about that, but it sounds like everyone's on board with that. It's just, let's get it laid out and do it all at one time and not rip them out.
that makes sense.
In terms of projects, the lights in the park and the park and ride project, just waiting on the final green light from the state. The sidewalks downtown, he received a contract from D&K, will begin the design phase of this project. And the revolving loan fund, he's gonna meet with economic development to develop a strategy to reloan the cash back out to our local businesses. And then he also wanted to add, we need someone to start planning the parade for next year. His understanding is the Legion won't be doing the planning anymore, and he needs some folks that can work, like make follow-up calls, decisions, final attractions, work the day of, etc. for the parade. And then he also wanted to add, it will cost the town $1,600 to get the cemetery surveyed, so the young lady can buy the cemetery lot behind that he discussed with the board a few weeks ago. And he's having them come in this month to get that done. The website development continues. The fairhavenvermont.gov site was approved, and the developer is building the site for us as we speak. And that is pretty much what he had in his report.
I would say, any questions for Liz, but that wouldn't be fair.
I
That
probably
would
can't
not be
answer
fair.
that.
No, that's good.
Let's grill her, see how she does.
Yeah.
No. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There is no old business, but new business is a highway safety grant.
So I got the preliminary authorization, I put that into your box, it says grant on there, which outlays the sheriff had signed off on it, they're waiting on the actual grant to come itself. This is the authorization to start working. The last grant expired, September 30th. We have not used any, obviously, without approval, we have not restarted the grant for this coming fiscal year, federal fiscal year. Just for Chad, because he hasn't been here before, we've been doing it since 2005, and I think when Glenn came on the board, I did a total, I don't know what year that was. We were at over $200,000 that we brought in highway safety money, and we get highway safety equipment out of that, like the radar signs, these signs we got, and all the radars and the car cameras. Everything's come from that participation in this grant. So what I was looking for was authorization to either two ways, either temporary authorization until the actual grant comes, or authorization to continue. I'll give you the grant. If you guys have an issue with the grant, we'll bring it back up and stop it. Either way, I guess, however you were looking at, the board was their pleasure if you were interested in us in continuing this program.
Didn't we do something similar to that last
It's
year?
been
We
the
approved.
last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Would be a temporary approval to start working, the grant would come, you guys would review the grant, and then have a final say on the grant itself. I have found that the grant is how we are primarily spending a lot of time doing speed enforcement and trying to reduce our crashes, and it does appear to have a correlation. The more you're out doing traffic, our accident numbers appear to go down. I'd like to continue on that program. Some other board members that over the years have had some concerns about, at one point we traveled out of town a little more. We have pulled back to try to stay within our community as much as possible. We venture out once in a while if there's a clicker ticket detail or DUI checkpoint. If they're doing one around the area, we'll go do that and then come back to meet certain criteria for the grant. Clicker ticket is normally around April or May. That we participate in that. I think we only did a couple days this year. We didn't do much. We haven't really had the manpower. If you watch the grant totals, we haven't been able to get out as much to do it. But it is, I think, beneficial to be able to go out and just have somebody we're just can focus on. If you see the last 2 weeks, we've been on quality of life crimes. I mean, it's just been running, and that puts a person out just to do those extra details.
So if you need an authorization from us to do it, so we would pay all the money until he gets the grant. Is that the way it works? And they
It's the way it
reimburse
was
us,
last year. I think we were 2 months.
and then they'd
maybe
reimburse
3,
us.
And then as soon as the grant got approved, we sent the invoice and they just started sending the money right back. It was there. And then a normal process is we bill out, and then they send it back. We bill out your FICA, your Medi, and your mileage on the car, and then they reimburse it monthly. I don't think we have, is there anything outstanding? October might just be out, right?
Yeah, everything else is in.
September,
I'm pretty sure September is in.
they came in already?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we're all good for last, fiscal year.
And we haven't had any problems with getting the bill back or anything. Like I
No,
said, this has been pretty, I know that in fairness, you're good, you've covered the fact that it hasn't always been a consensus agreement to go forward and take part in the program. I'm, make no secret, I think it's a great program and always have been supportive from the very beginning of the program because we get, I feel we get more back than we ever invest in there, especially with the addressing, like the chief was saying, there was some concern of getting too far out of Fairhaven and doing a lot of the things that are really close by. If anything's needed here, we're not giving less coverage there. So
and I do have to, I mean, the board members that have been on has concerns, and I pay taxes in my town, why is that car way over there?
Mhm.
So, and I agree, so we've tried to, at one time, the program was like, oh, you're gonna go over under 7, and that's what we're doing today. And it was like, you'd hear feedback, why is my car over in Wallingford? So, if we, for some reason, go out, I try to tell the town manager, okay, we did a checkpoint in Rutland City and then came back. We don't try to say, I'm going to Rutland City to do a checkpoint on Strong's Avenue prior, because then obviously you're compromising what you might do, but, and again, click it or ticket, they do run a task force in the 2 weeks, and we didn't really participate as much, where you might, in the past, you might see Brandon, Castleton, Fairhaven, or Rutland Sheriff and a trooper on Dutton Avenue. And then tomorrow, they're over in Castleton, we're over in Castleton, so it's in that 2 week period, they like to see multi-agency task force and multi-agency presence, and their mindset is, if we're sending a strong message to the community that we're all united, but I do sympathize with the concerns of, why is my car killing? You know, so, to appease some board members with some in the last, few cycles, I have agreed with, and I think I do think it's beneficial. We're here, we're addressing our own problems, and 22A is a nightmare.
slowing the
It's really
speed
been
down.
beneficial, I think, at least on our end of it, to be out there as much as we are. And we don't spend every minute out there, we do move out, through the town.
I don't know.
So what do you need for us to,
Just the temporary approval that we could resume normal operations, and then when the grant comes in, I'll
We'll come back
put
again
it
to
back
us.
on the board, you guys can
Okay.
review it and then make a final.
so we don't have an actual Vermont, we don't have anything to sign tonight?
No, I just have
Okay.
this that you guys can
Sure.
review, and I'll raise the insurance,
Okay.
and that
Yep.
stuff.
So I'll make a motion to temporarily approve the participation in, what do we call it? The Highway Safety Grant Program.
I'll second that. I think it's beneficial, I really do.
Jay's not here, so I will say for Jay and for me that, the closer you stay to town, the better I like it, and I'm sure Jay would say the
Okay.
same.
I
And it's been-
him and I have talked, and I understand this concern.
And it's been better the last few years, it really has, I mean, so I can't argue the effectiveness or anything like that, it's seeing the people close to town is where we want them.
And it's actually.
I appreciate that effort.
Right, that actually could be a benefit too with other municipalities here for a few minutes.
Yep.
You know, kinda equals out a little bit too, you know.
Anybody else got anything? All those in favor?
I,
Aye, those opposed? Thanks. EV charging station right away, after all that discussion, do we wanna make a,
I think what it'll do is it'll help on the planning end, what'll help on the planning is for they know that the town is okay with those chargers going over there, and
Okay.
GMP and
that's
both
a
engineering
good,
firms can know that the right of way has been approved by the town, so
Okay.
they can say, yes, we are going here with this project, so.
I
ready
think-
for me to make a motion?
yep.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the easement of the Green Mountain Power on the south side of town, the town green, for the installation of the electric vehicle charging stations, and to allow Elizabeth Ambule to sign the agreement.
Second.
There is a,
Yes.
what do we call it?
Last one for the solar.
There is an abandonment.
Yeah,
clause
abandonment clause.
That we
Yeah, there is.
did, I look up there and I remind me, I said, we did put an abandonment clause just like the other one.
Yeah, it's
So
in
it's
there.
identical to the other easement that we've done.
I'm going to, from now on, just refer them to, as the Rod Holdsworth clause.
They're all over with abandonment clause.
I'm good with sunset clause.
Okay, everybody understand what we're doing?
Mhm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Now the fun begins. DPW budget time.
No, it's right here.
Wait a minute.
It's, no, that's not, doesn't have, it's right here. Did you give
Well,
me a copy?
No, no.
I'll tell you, you do.
Do you need a copy?
Man,
No.
Okay.
so. Do you wanna give an overview, or do you?
While he's doing that,
Give me just one moment.
Okay, give me a moment, cause I had that separated.
Report?
yes, I do highlight it. Just double check. Yes, I did it right there.
No problem.
So. I do have one more sheet to add that Joe said was to be somewhat prudent, for discussion possibly for you, as the board members. Of course, as part of the process, Joe gets the request out early in September for us to come up with, numbers and requests back to him. Then he goes through and parses it down as best he can to try and meet, what the town does as a board and what he feels the town can absorb for a increase in the lines. So of course you have your full budget sheet. The little sheet I handed you is just, shows his reductions from what the department, myself had proposed with in working with Nate with the highway, and what is left in the current line in this proposed budget that we have before you.
So what you just passed us was probably in here, was taken out. So if we should decide to give you more money, you'd know what was taken out? Is that,
Yep, 'cause
Gotcha.
usually otherwise I do
got
the
it.
same
That's
sheet
what
you
this
guys
was.
do, and I
Yep.
forget, I do
He
have
called
my
it-
sheets out here as well, so I can say why I'm asking for each within reason.
I think last year when he called it à la carte, that, but it was the stuff he took out, that what, if
That's
you
still-
wanna put anything back in?
That's still coming.
Oh, that's still coming,
There's
okay.
stuff in here that's not à la carte stuff, for
Okay.
sure. The majority of what you're seeing in this stuff is reflective of what we're seeing for this year for pricing and where the projections are for next year, because, even last year when we were writing this, however long ago was we projected out this year's budget, we did not know that going into November of 2022, that fuel was already gonna be back, fuel for the trucks was gonna be back to $6 a gallon for us. That's not gonna help us at all this winter if those trucks need to be running for 12, 14 hours a day for days on end, so. I guess we wanna start. The salaries he has, for admin is a $2,400 increase with a 3.3%. Office supplies up $100 for 50%.
And where, when I'm looking at what was handed out to me, where am I at?
So the ones that, which sheet, sorry?
You're at 03051 Public Works Admin?
Yep.
Okay,
Oh, I see.
Yep. So 5110, Public Works Admin, So that's,
5110, okay?
5110.
That's salaries. Yeah.
That's salaries. Is that correct?
There you go.
So that's 80% of what would be for salaries for myself and 50% of the administrative assistant for that salary line. The remainder of those salaries are covered elsewhere in other budgets.
And then administrative assistant is Jim? Okay.
Of course, the office supplies $100. Operating supplies for an extra $250. That's the contract for the uniforms. So that we do have a signed agreement for the next 3 years with Foley's, or 2 or 3 years, and I think it's between 3 and 5%. I forget exactly what it is, but we do have an agreement with them in place that hopefully will stay binding. Dues and meetings, I think the big one for that is just to get back to the trainings that we have not been able to take due to COVID stuff. So it's been a lot of webinar stuff, so now we can get back to some virtual as well as hands-on classes for like when Rich and the guys went down to Lake George for that salt reduction seminar and stuff like that to pay for that stuff. There is more and more stuff open that we are allowed, we can go to the hands-on, and they do have fees for some of that stuff. So the Public Works administration itself is up for an overall of 4% at the $3,155.
Anybody has any questions, just jump in and we'll ask them as we go. Just for it's just a line by line address, and you just, if you have anything, don't be shy.
What percentage of the overall budget goes to admin?
The overall of the Public Works, I have to run the number on quick. So proposal is 82,000. I believe the overall budget still, we are at 7. Highway is $746,204, so just over 10. So summer work salary, that increase of the 27.7 is using that sliding scale that Joe, Jim, myself have used for the last quite a few years of where the averages of the work have been performed over the year. So we take everyone's salaries, lump them all together, where they've been working over the last 5 years, and lump out they've been working this percentage more of summer work than winter work, than water lines, sewer lines, cemetery, stuff like that. And I believe the way the sway would be right now is that summer work's the one that's getting whacked at the 27%. If you flip back real quick, you'll see winter salary is down 5%. And that's just following that rolling average of not, double dipping in summer and winter salaries extra. It's that using what everyone's salaries account for the year and breaking it down to where they've been working over the 5-year rotation of that.
My only question was, you know how we worked with a man down in DPW through the year? So using how we've done it before for summer work, out of the ordinary this past year was a man down. Does the sliding scale still apply the same?
So we went man down April, so it'd be April through June. So it may be skewed a little bit going into next year. There's definitely a point we need to look at that and see how stuff was skewed based on that, because the manpower this from July 1st till now, until we hire the new guy, it's gonna be all over the place due to everybody having to run from here to there to cover all the jobs that are required of the guys at the highway.
Which is, I'm guessing, I talked to Joe a little bit about this, is the transfer station, the labor cost seems to be, well, it's the second highest of all, and I was wondering if that was overtime, because we don't, I don't know why that is. That it doesn't, what I wanted to know from Joe, and I kinda asked him the question late before he left, but, what percentage of labor is transfer station on average? And what percentage of the whole budget
Is transfer station.
is transfer station labor?
Alright,
So that we can see if, you know, like, right now it's showing that it's 29% of the labor cost.
out of the guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which doesn't make sense, you know, except if you add the fact that you're you're paying people overtime because there's a, you know, somebody's taking a vacation, somebody's out, whatever it happens to be. So it's always overtime money, and is there a more creative way to do this, if that's the reason?
Yeah, so that could be part of it, definitely, because Saturday is a scheduled
Right.
work day for those gentlemen. And it's not a scheduled work day for guys that always
Right.
have to fill in.
Right.
So that's definitely, is part of it. I'd have to dig into that a little bit more to see what work. That rolling, I know the rolling scale has always been a question. Everybody's like, is this really the most effective way to break it out?
I mean, that one, looks like an opportunity somehow to do a different management way of the labor. I don't know that there is one, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's something we should look at.
There is 3 days a week that is manned with 2 people,
Mhm.
no and if or buts, due to the permit we have to operate the place to
Right.
begin with. And then all the time down there on the days off to tidy the place, make sure everything's taken care of. So there is quite a bit of hours put into that, so that, could be, so that would, and it's different for that versus for my guys at the highway garage. If they're down there, that of course charges to that, but like for summer work, winter work, and stuff like that. So today, one of the guys, was pushing salt up. Well, that's charged out to winter work because that's winter work. But the same guy that put 4 hours in up here on summer work, so his, 5 of his 8-hour day was spread across 3 lines that show up here as different percentages.
Right.
Whereas I had 2 guys that it was 8 down there all day. There was no jumping around. They worked it, the highway guy worked 8 hours, but he was working 3 different lines of salary paying. So that the majority of it might just be that that's just one defined line that covers those hours, and that's just what it is. Whereas then the rolling scale moves that the summertime is 27% more this year, wintertime is going to go down, type deal. Whereas that is truly, there's those set hours that place is operational no matter what. So definitely something we can dig into some more for sure.
Yeah, and then we get into
No
the
other
whole
way.
argument about how split up do we want this, how much does it really matter?
Does this have to be split up this fine?
That's the question. I mean, we've gone both ways over the years that I've been on the board. We've done both, and mostly we get to this because people wanna know. They wanna have that breakup, but.
I do have the answer on the winter versus summer work. So winter versus summer work plays to Vermont State statute, something that we have to work on myself. I'll quote it later. But what it is that summer and winter work are separated out due to the fact that if there's a emergency of some sort, we lose a bridge or a road or something like that, and it does not clip the federal threshold for a national or federal disaster, the state has monies available to help us fix and finance, but our deductible is 10% of our highway operations minus winter operations. So you need to show winter operations separate, so that way, so now Adams Street Bridge finally fails due to a act of God, and we get some financing to help that out. Of course, it's not federal because they don't care about us, but no, just kidding.
Is
We would
dynamite an act of God?
Depends on how it's lit, right? Lightning from above. So if it doesn't meet the federal criteria, that would, we'd go to the state for aid on that. They would say that we need to pay 10% of our summer operations towards that bridge. So we would take all of this, I would dare say admin falls in there, but summer work. So we would take the overall budget minus winter work, 10% of that is what we have to pay for the deductible for the state to come in and help us finish putting that back together. So that's why that, unfortunately, it's broke out that way. And there is a duplication of some stuff across both lines due to the fact that some of that stuff is duplication of, you can use that in the wintertime, so put that over there so it carries less weight on that summer side, so we're not paying more on that 10% if that issue ever arises.
Okay, bring us back to, we started with summer work in, under 0305110.
Yep.
10, and we were talking about not being down the man and everything, so I want to tie in, when I looked at your actual under 511010 summer work overtime, it was 16,800. I'm assuming, because I look back at what you handed out to us saying, that's what he took, that's what I'm following the sheet you gave me.
Yep.
Over here. It says, well, that's when the manager brought it back. When I looked at it, I didn't see, I said, that's probably because we were man down from April to June and you had to work overtime to offset it, and you anticipate getting back to 6,000 is the logic I use, but I want to make sure, because I see that it was almost 17, and 17 is what you put in and it was taken back to the 6,000 we normally put there.
Yep.
What was your logic for the 17?
If we go back farther than this actual, those other ones are up there still too. And it had been a question I had raised a couple times, and I got the answer from Liz finally today. So as of up until, or even still currently, the way NEMRIC is set up, any comp time accrued that's paid out comes from summer overtime work, regardless of when it was
Comp time
accrued,
comes out of summer
Yeah,
overtime
and I
work.
think
regardless of where it's accrued.
Yeah.
So you know, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this is,
Mhm.
my guys make overtime in the winter time, they put it as comp, because when it's nice weather, they're gonna wanna jet for a little while.
Sure.
Well, we've been paying that out of summer overtime, regardless if they earned it in the middle of winter. So this number could,
Doesn't mean I'm getting work done, it just means I might be paying for comp time that was, the work was done.
for winter time.
And so, see, that's the,
Yeah.
so,
Is there any other way that could be
I'm gonna
done?
call Nemrick. We just found out, we looked it up today, and that's what we found out. Somebody, I have a note to call Nemrick to see if we can change that, because I don't think that
That's, I think,
it's not
it-
giving you a good reading of what's going on.
without digging hard in that could almost be a flipped number. That could almost be that half or 3/4 of that should be charged actually to winter overtime.
Yeah, because if it's earned in the winter when you work more overtime than you do in the summer. So I do have a call, I will call Nemrick and ask him.
So, but I think if we go back to the actuals, it'll show a, and I might even have it on my sheet. Salary. The fiscal year 21 was showing a usage actual of $12,194.24. The only year actual under 6,000 was 2020, but otherwise we've been going up and up on that line.
I noticed this time, we had like the last budget cycle, we were able to look back 3 or 4 years
Yep.
and see, get an idea of what the actual was.
Yep.
And I didn't go and check to see if this
Yep.
was
So,
just a.
Actual
fly.
2021 was $12,000, almost $200 of the budgeted 5,189 that year. So
I'm not ready to say change it right now, but it helps me understand how the number,
And I think
why they're different.
now that we understand that there was maybe a reporting error that we can change or something we can change to make the report more, I would almost say that now I would be looking to say, look, I said to put it in here, maybe we're like, well, now we can cut it, but we need to put it back into, or I think the overtime truly is wintertime.
Yeah.
Because wintertime is where, it's
Yeah.
unplanned all the time on what the weather's gonna do, whereas in the summertime, there is unplanned overtime, there's no doubt about it. And there's some planned overtime, especially like you're saying this year with not having that fourth body, there was plenty of days that guys were over trying to make up for what we weren't getting done, so.
It would be interesting, and I know it's almost impossible to do, but to get some sort of guesstimation of what that cost us in overtime not having that person. Because I think it would justify getting them back pretty quick. I'm
I think
just,
do we have a job, we have a job out?
It's posted internally right now, the tentative hire date is not till January first at this point, so.
no good luck, because it's hard to find people.
So,
Okay.
we wanna continue on.
Yes.
Outside road work, or no, so. Yeah, next line that shows an increase would be the calcium, outside summer work calcium, and that's what we spray on the roads in the summertime after grading for dust control and retention of the aggregate, of $600 increase to try and match what a load of magnesium chloride is. Don't think he showed it, but I did ask for, I think, more than what. No, I proposed the 1,500, so that is what I had
No, that
asked
one,
for.
that one.
So that one's there. Outside paint, the $500 again is to get more and more into the thermoplastic. So we're putting permanent markings down on the road and not out there spray painting them every year. And everybody asking why we're not doing it twice a year. Well, it's taking us plenty of time to do it once, so we definitely are gonna make 2 rounds on it. So that's where that increase shows, is just so we can keep bumping that program out to capture more as we put new asphalt down and start catching up on some of the old markings that are maybe a couple of years old, but the pavement is only a few years old as well, and getting that done. Outside safety increase of $500, just to keep us on the up and up with our safety programs and making sure our guys are wearing the proper safety equipment in the field, as well as the safety equipment needed inside the buildings to do the work there.
Do they have to wear steel toed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That would be part of operating supplies. That's the uniform part there. There was the increase in the contract for more money for the boots, so that's where more and more money up there. Repairs and maintenance supplies. That's going to cover culverts. Let me pull this up here. Culverts, storm drain materials and stuff. This year alone, we had 2 storm drains that popped up with issues, and we had to buy new steel rings and such like that. And that, of course, the same as everything else, priced through the roof. One down here on South Park Place, just a frame and grade alone was $500 for a concrete one that had popped a hole in it and just fell through. And steel frame and grade to fit right over the top of that same hole was $500 of that budget that we have. We had at $3,000. So, and the actual, as you can see, the year before was up to $10,700. So, hot mix patch reduction there to 3,250 of 17, a reduction of 1,750. I had proposed.
And as we're doing, while you're looking that up, as we're doing more and more paving, getting ahead of our paving schedule.
Yep.
Shouldn't we have, ideally, if our paving program is working, less and less hot mix patch that we have to do?
So we're not at break.
We're not there yet.
We're not at break point. Unfortunately, Scotch Hill is still going to keep eating as much as we can give it, and we're trying not to just take it all up there and throw it all out there, as soon as July 1 hits, because then we don't have anything for any other spots that pop up on us. So we're getting there, but it's still, unfortunately, it could use as much as we can give to it. We did not use all of it, as you can see in that last year before that. I want to say, which was that, 2210? The fiscal year before that, we were shy of using all of it as well, so that very well could be justified at that point there. Gravel up due to increases of everything. Shipping alone this year was a major driver in our cost. If we went back through the sand and gravel bids, the price of material wasn't up dramatically, but to get it here through the trucking was just enormous. I think Pike's number, it was just amazing how high their actual delivery to get the material here was for that. Small tools and equipment, $150, and that's the tools we need out on the road, shovels, brooms, stuff like that. Other purchase services. The boss has down $3,000. I did not get to ask him why he was looking to remove that to $3,000. That is the line that we were paying. We're paying for the equipment or the rental for the roadside mower. So I had flatlined it as $9,000 for the roadside mower, and then the other outside purchase services. So that was going to be that would include from this fiscal year will be spring sweeping. So for next fiscal year, we'll be trying to do spring, fall sweeping. So in the next week or two here, I would have a street sweeper come through and pick up all these leaves and everything with the machine that's made for it. Otherwise, we're going to be out there with the skid steer with our half-quarter yard bucket and a sweeper trying to pick it all up and be multiple trips for multiple guys. So I had wanted to keep that at that $9,000 to pay for those 2 sweepings and the roadside mower rental. Outside road work is the paving as well as crack sealing that we do. I had proposed an increase of $40,000. You can see on that one cheat sheet. He had cut it back to the $187,000 that was last year's number. Outside tree removal, so trees on the sides of roads, $5,000, as well as park work. So that would be park and the roadsides. Repairs and maintenance. Let's see what the line says itself. That one is the repairs of park and playground facilities. The 030511068. So that pays for the repairs on park fences and stuff like that. Machinery and equipment is for culvert pipe.
Hold, time out.
Yeah.
It just registered what you said. We were getting a little bit of push from the itty bitty committee for painting, just a little.
Just a little.
So that would come out of repairs and maintenance.
So this is showing repairs, park and playground facilities. I know the 010 budget as well has some, so this one is the one that gets hit. 010 also has municipal grounds, which I've been trying to push back on Joe to say.
Isn't there another budget item
So
that I want to be talking, because the thousands they're talking are not the hundreds that we're looking at.
Right, that's what I was wondering.
And then again, it's another whole.
Yep,
So I
okay.
don't think this is the line item
Okay,
that you talk about.
all right.
if you want to add it there, though, I will gladly donate
I'm
some
not
of
ready
it
to
to
add
that
very
fund.
much money at all.
Some of that money to that cost.
Why highways?
Hmm?
Why do we have money in here for parks? Like the tree repair, tree removal for parks?
Summer work.
Well, it's I would say some tree removal, like I think we had a tree we had to take down by the post office that was that was just so dead, branches were falling on, it was a danger of people walking on the sidewalk. So it's not, there's some tree removal
Right, for sure.
that
But
has to
there-
be done by a road crew.
Right.
Down by the cemetery here on West Street, I think we had the removal of a tree as well.
So cemeteries have their own tree work line. The park itself usually comes from the highway end too, so, we usually do the spring, trim out with this monies, as well as there's some leaders that we've been calling, trying to get people on as well, and that would come from this.
This line item right here? Their name.
Well, why should it? Why should,
Well, right, I'm still, I don't know why we take it out of here.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why?
I agree.
Why wouldn't you?
Because if
It's not-
you wanna
'cause-
have a recreation, so your recreation account
It's a park.
and everything, here's a park and recreation, if you're gonna put a line, put it where it really is, don't,
It's summer work though.
which, to me, it does not necessarily, when I put the
Where
money
would-
down there, it's not necessarily DPW that needs to do it. It could be outsourced, just like our,
Well, yeah, you could put it in the other purchase services.
it just doesn't look and
Okay.
feel right for me there. But we,
Where
like I
would you
said,
put it?
I would push it to O&O myself.
where, you would put it in this one right here?
I would push it to 010, the
010.
general, because that's
Oh.
where you're paying the rec.
That's where,
Okay.
wherever
And
recreation
stuff
and
like
everything
that.
else, I expect to see.
So,
Okay.
if we keep going down through, we get to like public works equipment. Public work equipment historically has been the one to buy, even, and maintain, the equipment that's operated at the transfer station for their facilities purposes. So the backhoe that sits down there, I've been weaning it away, trying to split it so it's happy. Look, if it's working 50% of its time down there, that line really, that department should pay for it. And highway should pay the fair share that they use it for. That's just the way I've been operating, or trying to operate, because
It makes sense for me because that's where you decide to put the tickets for transfer. You put where you're using it and charge, just like we
Well,
do
I'm-
water and sewer.
I mean, for me, it doesn't matter where it goes, it's,
as long as it's counted.
as long as we're not losing it.
Machinery and equipment, I said that goes to culverts. Replacement park fence is also called out in that one as well, so. I had put in on mine another, trying to get another park permanent picnic table. That was pulled, and put onto the à la carte list, so you will see that later come up as to, do we wanna spend money to put another permanent picnic table in there?
Find one with a checkerboard this time.
I will make sure that's on the list.
I'm serious, you don't wanna get my wife mad.
I won't even tell you whenever we look back to see what the price difference was.
I know, it was awful. So maybe we'll just get somebody painting.
So winter work goes with the,
That wouldn't be a bad
the flip-flop of the rolling average. We're showing a negative 5.3%, reduction of $2,066 in the high, winter work salary line itself. Overtime was, put to $7,000, so a reduction from 2 fiscal years ago.
Are we actually seeing that? I mean,
They said the actual was
It doesn't-
8,000 was the
Yeah.
actual for last
yeah,
year.
that's what
But
it
and that said, that I think that summer work one, if we actually were able to account for it heavy, this would be a lot higher than what it truly is right at this point. That summer one would be
Yeah.
a lot lower than what it is, so when we go to maybe do more of that talking, if there's any digging Liz and I can do to trying to see if there's a number that equates,
That
we
the
can say
comp
where they
time
need to
that
go.
your generates goes closer to.
Goes to where it needs to go. Salt, I had put up another $3,000, that's, I didn't run the percentages once we finally got the contract. But the $56,000, we cut the $3,000 to go back to 56,000. 56,000 at the current price is a significant reduction in salt that would be available to buy. So that is definitely one line that I would push to say needs to come back to at least that $3,000 increase. And now that I have a current contract, I could actually run a real number to say what, if price stays the same as it is this year, what we need to budget for next year if we're gonna have a normal year, so.
I think you're gonna find, you're gonna use a lot more salt over the next few years because we're not getting the snow, we're getting ice and rain and ice and snow and
Yeah, but that's where they're pushing this, brine and stuff
brine, yeah.
as a savings.
Yeah.
They're really pushing that hard, all through the United States. And actually overseas too, but that was part of our training that we had in that salt reduction program.
Yes.
But the
Have
biggest,
a good night. Thanks for coming in.
the biggest thing to save this salt is keep these roads in really good shape. And as we buy equipment, we're gonna have to invest in the better equipment like the live edge plows and things like that. To get it down where the salt, we don't have to put so much salt on to make it work. So we've gotta keep that in mind going forward.
So,
When you were saying the salt, and you're saying you know the price of the salt, you know what it is that number, knowing what it is that number, instead of 56,000, you're saying that number should be at least 5,900, what you had originally?
You said
Or 50,
56,000.
or 50, wait a minute, the salt, it says 56,000. It says 56,000, so you must mean 59,000.
59.
Are you saying that 59 is what it should be? Because I'm looking at it saying, the cost of it's the cost of it. If you know better now than we do then, because even when you made these changes and said the manager put it here, well, the manager may put it there, but it's based on bad information. It was a cost that we can't get anymore. I don't have a problem for going through here, taking that 56 and making that 59,000.
Yep.
That's what I don't know what the rest of
Is
you
that,
think.
no, I think.
I mean, it's a real number, otherwise we're just,
Yeah.
you can put any number you want. If it's not a real number, you're not gonna get us close when we're all done. But I'm okay with changing that 56 to 59.
Is 59 realistic?
He's got it 59 in his though.
Well, on his, he had salt at 59.
Right, I mean, is that realistic, or is that
One
just,
second,
was that a
let me-
guess to you?
And if that, based on the new numbers you have, if that's,
Well,
this
actually,
current year,
it might be a little low for him, but at least it's closer, is what I was thinking.
on what we use for an average year is 750 tons.
Mm-hmm.
8550, it'll be, so it's only, so we're showing $65,000 on that this year's price.
Right.
But we know next year it's not gonna be the same as this
And
year's price.
we're doing the budget that's gonna take us into
Next winter.
23.
Yep.
And we know the
So-
price, do we know the price for that?
The addition, sorry, the addition I have in that for that 3,000 is to go back to what he's saying about the liquid, because we've never, when Sam was here, we started on the liquids program, but it was never funded. So we've been trying to use it as we can without blowing the whole budget over. So I would still push to say that we need to go to 59,000 to be able to make sure we can pay and start going forward with that. At some point, if we get the program like we were talking,
When
if
we
he
do
went
more
south,
brine,
we do
we
more
might be
stuff.
able to come back.
Come back
next
or
year.
take that
The
money
idea
and
was
push.
that he wanted to do brine, and to take the place of salt, and he was gonna save money. But because there was a lot of questions, we didn't make a brine number, it was just basically ice clearing. So one took the place of the other. But if you do all salt and brine, now you're doubling up.
No, there's more to that program than that. So there's a lot of equipment that was never accounted for that as well needs to be placed into this mix to equal the savings. The throwing out, if we put liquids in this program, we're gonna cut 25 and 30%. That's not ideal. Or not the reality of this year. That's the reality of the next year and two investing in the process to step into a real salt, brine, and liquids program where we can start to recover some of that monies. But as when he went to the class, the idea behind this is never to take that money and just pull it out. It's to invest in the next cost savings measure, the next ability to go better and bigger.
Did you by us taking that, did we decrease our brine
With the,
in the budget that we're talking about?
in this budget, so there's still never been a number,
There still isn't a number for brine.
still number, no, there for Brian. So it's always been we can't just trade one for the other because we don't have the equipment to trade one for the other. We're trying to supplement into the program to get it 100% on board. We're not to that point yet. I do have a grant out right now to get us farther into that, another $50,000 of equipment further into that we can maybe do more to bring this down, so.
You need different equipment to spread the brine versus spreading the salt.
Yeah.
Different trucks.
Different, so I need a machine to actually make the salt brine. What we're buying is a very expensive premium liquid that works very well, but it also is finicky. It does not play, and Joe is asking all the time, were you pre-treating this year, or this storm? And the temperature says no, because if that premium stuff, if it hits the right temperature, it's gonna be worse on the roads than if we'd done nothing. So we're stuck between salt or the expensive stuff, and I don't have anything in the middle, and that's what I need, is that middle component that we just have not been set up to do yet.
See, there's a lot, there's road sensors and everything that are being introduced onto the trucks that take the temperature of the road, and that determines what product you put down at that time
And how much?
and how much. And there's
We're
a,
nowhere near that, I mean,
we're nowhere close to that.
We're doing a farmer's try on it, our best guess and best run with what head knowledge we have and what rudimentary tools we have to make it as viable as possible. So, and that's where we're stuck right at the moment. We're slowly trying to get there, but we're stuck right at the moment, is where we're at.
The price of fuel oil is basically really driving everything up, way up. And I'm surprised that these numbers are even gonna work, really.
Well, the concern, the reason I'm talking, make that 59, I looked at these numbers from where we are, and said, I would understand if you're concerned that when you start looking at your budget next year, we start thinking that we don't have the money to make it happen. And that causes you to do some other, so we wanna be, we want, there's nothing wrong with challenging ourselves, but it's gotta be realistic enough that we can get there.
Well, that's where I'm, you know,
Um,
$3,000 in the salt budget's not a lot of money.
Not a lot of money, but it's.
Not,
The
not
truck that showed up
at
today was
8.5,
more than
9%
$3,000.
inflation rate.
That's, to give me my honest opinion, when I looked at this first, when I looked at the 3.9 overall is what my budget went up. Well, everything I buy is more than 3.9% higher right now when I buy it, so next year I'm not buying as much as I did this year. And that's just, if that's where we are, that's where we are, but that's not what I want, because I know if I don't go open that road up with the tools I need, the salt or the liquid or whatever it is, we're all gonna be getting yelled at, unfortunately, but it is a hard reality where we're at right now, for sure.
are you going to spend $59,000 on salt?
I can almost guarantee it.
Where are you going to buy, where is brine money gonna come from?
Trying to make it work. Like I said, hopefully if I get that $50,000 grant, I'll have that equipment now to start
You'll
making
have
that better
equipment, but
product.
you won't have the brine, I mean, how
But
do
so-
you do that?
What I'm looking to do is make actual salt brine.
Use the
Okay.
salt to make.
The road salt
He's gonna take the
itself.
salt they buy and
I
make
do
his
not
own-
have
make his own,
a brine maker
It'll
right
make it
now.
go far.
make his own brine.
So right now I have to buy a pre-made liquid, which is the magnesium
Yep.
chloride inhibited with some carbohydrates to it, which is a premium product. It's great stuff. It works really good at what it is. It's worth every dollar. We haven't budgeted for that dollar, so I can't have both on the shelf, is what my problem is right now.
All right,
I'm trying to keep some of each on the shelf, but it's hard. I need the low end stuff that doesn't cost money.
so to keep going here, is everybody okay with going to 59?
I am.
It doesn't make any sense not to.
Yeah, we can't drop that, I don't believe.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Sand, so 13.5, I left that there, because as part of, where we're trying to head with this, is the increase in the salt, we'll see a reduction in use of sand. So if we're going for the proper program, as he went to the class for, sand is no longer the nice abrasive, or the nice thing that we use in wintertime operations, especially for us on our asphalt roads. Cause sand, all it does is absorb all the antifreeze, oils and all that stuff. It's washed into our our catch basins, fills them up, and then it's just taking all that nasty stuff into the rivers and streams. So they're trying to get us to not only use less salt and more effectively, but get rid of the sand. We're still using sand on dirt roads because that's the only thing there is for that. But they're trying to, we're working on changing that so it's a better product, so we're using less of that on those roads as well. So that's level funded there. The outside calcium would be more of that, trying to get that liquids program up and running. So we're going from the $1,000 to the $3,000. So that would also buy into that liquid program. So if we're using it for the purpose of direct spray on the roads versus treating the salt or spraying at the spinner with the salt. Cold patch left at $2,000. Gravel left at the $7,500 on this end. Other purchase services is a showing of, my apologies. It's what we use for the outside hauling for snow and for the snow, and what's the spring street sweeping comes out of this line. So the fall would be that other line, that 3,000. This one's the one that pays for the spring. My apologies.
That anywhere near realistic.
Last time I had gotten a price when we budgeted it last year was $3,000 was going to get us our spring sweeping. So that was.
But if you're taking the hauling of snow, hiring subcontractors, you're not able.
So it depends on, of course, how much snow we get. So that's, some of it's a placeholder and some of it's for that spring sweeping. So. Yep.
We'll leave it that way, but that doesn't sound realistic
I
either.
can double check on trucking prices and see how much they are up and how far $3,000 will go. So before that increase of the $3,000 back into winter salt, the original proposal was a negative 0.1%. So the 3,000 will come back over to a positive percentage, of course. Public Works building is the maintenance and the work we do in and around the public, or the garage down at the, off of Cottage Street. Salaries is an increase here. Again, that's an internal, that 5-year rotation from the previous gentleman that had my job to mine. They would always mark in if they had the equipment in the garage, doing maintenance on it, or if they're working on equipment around the garage, would always be marking down garage. I'm trying to get them back in the track, no, that's equipment. You're actually working on the equipment, not the garage. So that number will, it's up 52%, but it's gonna jump around a little bit as I get that put back to where it belongs. Fuel, showing up with $1,000 increase there. I don't think I did much to that before. I don't see it on his sheet that I cut it, or he cut what I put. I had proposed the 6,000. So this fuels the town garage and the bus barn, so the bus annex building, or barn annex building. And $1,000 is hopefully to cover what fuel is going to keep going up. We do have fixed numbers for this year, but again, we're playing with an unrealistic world right at the moment. Maintenance supplies, proposed at $2,000. He did cut me back to the 1,800. That's for the paper goods, light bulbs, garbage bags and stuff, first aid supplies out of the barn. Garbage bags here would be charged out for doing our dump run, so that's the bags that they use to do the park downtown, the cemeteries when we're doing our trash runs. Next one that, if you want to jump, the next one that shows an increase is utilities of $400 with the cost of electricity going up. The rest of it otherwise was level funded. An increase of 18.4%. $4,582 increase. Public Works equipment salary is showing on that 5-year slide-in scale of a reduction of 25%, 25.2%. Diesel of an increase of $4,500 to the $18,500. I had originally proposed that. Where'd it go? My apologies. I had pushed that to the 18,005. My apologies. So that is where I have seen it. So the actuals for diesel, fiscal year 22 last year we spent $22,000 on fuel. This year I'm not sure where we are currently yet, but so I went to 18.5. So that line very easily. I could have missed the mark on that one as well, especially, like I said, with fuel already at $6.
We're hoping that this little blip starts going the other way like it did after November, another week.
Yeah.
It starts going the other way, so we're gonna knock on wood and hope we'll
talk again.
We'll probably talking again, but yeah.
So it was $22,095 last year,
Yes.
and you think you're gonna get away with 18.5? No. It's not right, is it?
You spent 3,700 so far, according to this.
Yeah. So winter seasons.
Right.
Where we burn it.
Right.
Because most of those trucks start in the morning, a lot of them are running 12, 14 hours
'cause
that day, and for some reason they're thirsty.
We have to get back in the gas.
But I mean,
I know. What the diesel?
yeah, I mean,
I think at this-
Rich's point is absolutely true.
Yep. I'm showing 22,000 last year. We could easily say we're gonna go 2021 on that and still be short.
But the budget we're talking about here for that is, we're saying after July 1 of 2023, do we think diesel is still going to be up there? Or are we going to see like we saw when the summer came this year and things started working with gas prices coming down before they took the fall and everything, and the Saudi, there were
Unless you've got a direct line to the Saudis.
no,
I
I'm
wouldn't-
just saying this is such a crapshoot. I'm happy
Yeah.
with what you got there, not ready to fight for something different yet. Though I'm not going to sit here and say that in July I think it's even going to be worse. The things that are driving,
No one knows.
but I gotta believe it'll
not-
get
it's not-
sorted out by July of next year.
It's not gonna go
I don't
a
know.
lot.
I would like to think it would go down some, but I just don't
gotta
know that
believe
for sure.
We will.
We can add now, we can add later too, or we can leave it be and. For us, I
We
think the hardest part is-
we can add in now, and we can come back in another month and a half and take it out as we're trying to get
Yeah.
a budget,
Well,
that's a doable budget.
your doable budget is not realistic.
And I know, and you and I disagree.
I know.
You won't get my support for
I
a
think
10% increase.
So just,
Oh, I know that. And
just for an example, $4.15 for home heating oil, exactly 3 weeks ago, this past Wednesday.
There's price gouging going on all over. The real cost is,
It's now $5.70, I do believe, the same place.
I paid $5.09 about a week ago.
you were gonna,
You know, I hear people still think I'm on the board, and they come and complain to me, with the price of fuel, why are the trucks sitting there idling for no reason? The town's gotta come up with an idle policy.
I'd like to ask this, where they're seeing the trucks idling.
You know,
If it's on the roadside, then it would be to keep the lights and radio operational, so that's a safety issue. Unfortunately, that's not much we're gonna curb without new technology that
these
allows
trucks
it.
have 2 batteries. I mean, to sit there and idle, I don't have clear specifics.
Yep.
But I'm telling you what folks are coming and saying.
They talk to me about
It's anecdotal, but there's gotta be a policy. And it's gotta make sense. You can't sit there and idle a truck for, you know, potentially an hour or 2 hours, just sitting there doing nothing. I mean, you got 2 batteries. You know, the radios are transistorized, they don't take much power. And the lights, most of the lights, at least on the new trucks, they're LED. So, you know, some people say, oh, it's to save the starters on these diesel trucks. Well, I think that's a load. But there's gotta be a policy. Whatever the policy is, and you can refer to people to the policy. But for the townspeople, they're filling up their cars or trucks. They know what it's costing, and to see a truck sitting there idle, eventually, someone's gonna come and, they're gonna come to meetings or at town meeting and say, what is going on? So,
And
anecdotal statements.
simple thing to do would be to talk to private contractors and see where they're at, what they're doing, and
Well,
what
the
they're.
problem is, Bob, the private contractors are just passing on the cost.
No, I
to
mean, but they're, generally speaking, they're not running them. I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I haven't, I mean, Doug and Mike Woods just did a job at the shop. They don't have their vehicles sitting there. I mean, they're running when they're working,
Right.
but if they're sitting still, those machines are off.
back on the diesel one, we had quite a bit of discussion. In order to move forward, would you say it might be something we might wanna revisit because I don't know, are you proposing about putting more money in there? or-
I was,
I'm
yeah, I
just,
mean, I don't know, it doesn't make sense, I'm kind of on Rich's end of the thing, that we're gonna get less than 20, we used 22 last year. We're at 18, let's come back to it, so we can move on.
Gas shows an increase of $3,000 from $5,000 to $8,000. Last year's actual of $10,032. The years before that showed about on average with the budget, so that's that spike of cost increase. Motor oil up $500, same as fuels, it's up there. Hydraulic oil I had pushed up to, or I had it at 1,500 as well. He cut it back to $500 from the $1,000 that was budgeted the previous year. That one, as I was talking with the guys at the garage, that one is definitely way more used than the engine oil, because that's the one where a hose breaks here or there and you're actually putting a gallon or two in when stuff breaks, whereas an engine oil is you change the oil only so many times a year. So that line should definitely be pushed back to the $1,500 mark, I believe.
Did he move it to 500 because the actual for 22 was 451?
451. So that one had been tried to be consolidated somewhere, and it wasn't being used actual. But it very easily could be. That's what you saw was the 451 from last year, or from the year previous.
have a problem making it 1,000.
What's everybody think?
It sounds like it wasn't because of something that didn't happen, that should have happened, but the realistic amount of hydraulic is 1,000.
At least 1,000,
At least
if not
1,000.
1,500.
I'm good. I don't know.
Barrel right now
Information.
is going, I think the last barrel we bought was almost $800. And of course, we have to have more than one barrel on the shelf with the equipment we have. One takes one kind, one takes another, one takes another.
And go up
John
1,000,
Rich,
go up
yeah.
500?
Go up 500, make it 1,000?
All right with that?
I'm okay with 1,000.
I would say that's probably fair.
Antifreeze showing a $50 increase. Grease and fluids, so grease and fluids showing $350. I had both of it at the $350. Repairs, maintenance supplies itself, I had proposed $29,000. The level funded at $26,000.
What's that represent?
That is the, all the parts and pieces for the vehicles for repairs and or plow blades, all the wearable parts, anything that has to do with repairs and maintenance of the fleet itself, from wearable parts to parts that just break. So, yeah, I had proposed 29 based on actual 26,000 of the year before, and the year before that was $48,000. We're not seeing prices on stuff being cheaper as well.
Well, you won't be able to get them, so you don't have to pay
At
for
some point.
them.
Repairs and maintenance, an increase of $2,000 from the original 12.5 that was scheduled last year. And that is outside repairs and maintenance, so outside mechanics working on some of the equipment. Licenses and registrations for the operators. Machinery and equipment. I had proposed a $6,500. He is flat funded at the $5,000. So the overall equipment will show an increase of $779, or a decrease of $779. Less probably 0.6% or 1%. 1%.
$1,700.
So that was a reduction of $1,700. We put the we put 500 back in, so that will still
Right.
show a reduction of
Right.
$1,279.
Yeah, okay.
Hydrant replacement, another one subject for debate. We didn't jump on it this year. It's up to you gentlemen if we want to try it someday. Hydrants, this are the fire hydrants themselves.
Are they in bad?
So for these, my opinion is that this needs to be pushed back over to the water lines. I think the thought and theory behind these is the hydrants serve as a public good for the whole town, because they could still be used for fighting fires outside of towns by tankers and all that such. However, they serve no actual, if we're gonna have the discussion of highway purposes. So, they can stay here, but my thought has always been they should be back into the water lines, because while they're there for fire protection, the main purpose that they serve on a regular basis is the flushing and maintenance of the water lines. So, but all that shows is an increase of $100 in maintenance supplies and $50 in salaries for the maintenance and repairs of them. So that shows an increase of 5.4% of $150. Debt management, interest is up $1,273.11 at 36.7. Debt management overall is up 2.2%. at $1,273.11. Overall budget shows an increase, plus or minus what we just talked about tonight, of around that 3.9%.
Add about $4,000 in there, and your overall, when I look in that last page where it said the total general and highway is 3.5%?
Yep.
Okay, and with the extra 5,000, 6, still.
Why would them fire hydrants even be considered as highway anyway? I mean, I just don't quite understand that.
Because you guys are calling it highway, it's public works.
It's public, right. I
It's
look at it and
because
say, it's
not
public
highway,
works.
it's public works.
And if you
All
you
right,
can do, and then I come back to say, is water and sewer, are they going, the people from water and sewer, are they going and replacing? And I'm going, it's your DPW people that are replacing the hydrants, probably flushing the hydrants. I think that's how, I'm just trying to think of how you, and if there's that group and all you wanna do is put the,
Well,
kind of
it's
put the
also-
cost of the,
It's also public good, I mean.
yeah,
That's traditionally, I think, why it's there, it's for,
Yeah.
it's for the general public good,
Yeah,
for fire
because,
protection purposes.
because it's everybody's responsibility, not just the water and sewer department. They're the water and sewer
Right.
owners, buyers.
I see both.
so it's really about 3 prongs there. I mean, you got fire, you got public works, you got water,
Yeah, but,
basically.
yeah, but it shouldn't be the responsibility of the water and sewer.
instead of nitpicking fire hydrants, which is a small amount of money, when you take DPW workers and have them go do sewer lines or whatever here, that's where the big money is. If you want to start talking about
Yeah.
where's the money in the
But we
wrong place,
charge back.
you're chasing pennies and the big
Yeah,
dollars.
but we
are-
charge back on that though,
I-
right?
Well, we have a hard to explain, hard for me, not to explain. We have a very hard for me to understand what kind of Ouija board we use for figuring out what do we charge back to for what should be there, because if I had to sit down for the average taxpayer and say, the reason you're paying your water and sewer bill so high, it's because of, let me show you exactly what it is. And I'm going, boy, it didn't look like no exact science to me. It looked like a swag, some wild ass, and that's where, and a big dollar sitting there. So if I'm gonna go and put a lot of effort, it's not gonna be trying to figure out how to get fire hydrants out of here. It's how to put the real money that you're actually spending on water. And some questions I don't know if you want the answer to when you're all done, because water and sewer are pretty high bills right now. If you're saying you wanna start going and putting more in there in water and sewer, you'll make a small segment in this town happy, but you're probably gonna drive the cost of water and sewer so bad. I think we're good. Well, personally.
Hopefully. Well,
But I think it's a good, Aaron, that is a very good
The first read.
understanding, going through on the first read right there is pretty good. And,
I just hope,
like to
I just hope we can make this small amount fly.
our challenge for all of our budgets, I think, Rich, this year is gonna be, they're gonna be tight, and managing that throughout the fiscal year is going to be a challenge.
I'm all for saving money, but I just,
We can't,
fuel and stuff is crazy,
exactly.
crazy.
I think we'll be revisiting this. But thank you for the
Is there
first.
any numbers in particular that I can try and make harder numbers
I would,
as best I can that we think?
I really would love to figure out labor costs on the
Transfer station.
transfer station. That,
That's the one I saw.
that's, it seems like it's way out of whack.
I will have to ask Joe for that sheet,
What?
because I do not have that sheet.
Oh, this one here?
But I'm wondering if that number is that based on the historical stuff that we went for a year a person down and had to move.
Well, that's part of it, for sure.
Almost, we had a full-time head from DPW working the transfer station, and that inflated. And then we got the replacement, we put a lot of DPW
Yes,
labor down there.
we
I
did.
don't know.
That's what I'd love to see, and I'd love to see the percentage between DPW overall and sewer, transfer station.
It's like the operating costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and how that how that equates. It just, that looks like an opportunity for management. That looks like that's you and Joe, but.
It very well could be, you got higher price people
Yeah.
sometimes, and even in some cases on overtime.
Yeah, oh,
It's gonna
it's,
make a big difference.
it
in a
is,
hurry.
it's that a lot, no doubt about it. It's just, how do we,
You're paying
how
this
do we
for this,
mitigate
this
that?
level.
You know,
and it
how do we
doesn't
get
long
that?
data.
Yeah. But that's,
I understand you have to do it, but it's probably not giving us a true picture.
well, maybe we can, you know, and it's just, it's how we schedule people, how we schedule vacations, a lot of stuff. If somebody calls off, you got nothing you can do about it, but I mean, there's, I don't know, maybe, it's just, that's a challenge. There, take it, run with it. Anybody else, anything else for Joe, or, excuse me, or Aaron, sorry. Been called a lot of things in my day.
I've been called a lot. I've never been called a Joe. What's that supposed to mean?
All right.
I got one question. I may have missed it here, not trying to follow along, but equipment, or does that come at a later date, our equipment budget?
Comes with appropriations.
Okay.
Oh,
Or sorry, not appropriations.
When we talk about the,
Capital reserve.
capital reserve.
Capital
stuff.
reserve.
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
we'll
for
do that.
like replacement equipment
Yeah.
and things like that, okay.
Yeah, we'll do it as a different adventure.
The same as the road work
No,
that's on here.
no,
No.
it's,
no, it's
It's,
one when we get, you look and there's monies that you put into,
for
equipment and
future,
capital
for
reserve
future
accounts.
purposes.
Okay.
And at some point, because I think the discussion will also come down to when you look at what your increases are and the things you need, in order to get some monies right here, they may even be, call me crazy and I'll probably get myself in trouble, but you say, we put so much into these reserve accounts each year. It may be, you look and see, are you up where you think your reserve account is looking pretty good? And you may decide that these right here, in this next budget cycle, let's not take that and put it in reserve, let's make that zero. Let's take that money now and apply that, because we went, if our reserves, I look at my reserve accounts, and there's, that number gets pretty big if, after it reaches, last year we talked about what's the amount you like to see in a reserve account? Is it 150,000? And once you get there and you put 175, 200, 250, maybe that money's what it costs you to go out and borrow, especially with the interest rates these days. You're better taking some of those monies and saying, okay, now I don't know since you've been there, but I'm not above saying take a year, and if these 6 reserve accounts look pretty good, and next year the monies we would normally put in those reserve accounts, that's the monies that we have to where we've cut to the bone in the past, and we need to fill some gaps, because it isn't, that money that you need isn't on trees. There's only a few places you can get it. But we may not have, if we don't have to go do it, fine. I can tell you one thing, we put a budget out there in March and it goes down, and we have to come back and cut. You may not like the sounds of that, because that's either positions, heads, or you go and take it out of those, the monies out of those reserves.
You keep saying we're gonna, you're a
I'm
you're a
telling you,
naysayer.
I'm-
You've
I'm-
gotta be more positive.
I'm telling you as a taxpayer, you give me a 10% budget, and I won't vote, I will vote no every time, just like the majority of the town. You can give any reason you want. It doesn't buy people's groceries and pay their heating bill at the end of the day.
You're exactly right, and like I
so you
said, the
can-
groceries and heating
yeah.
bills are terrible.
So, I mean, but that said, I
Well,
believe
let's
that
see where we are.
that
We're
we will
not,
put
we're
it
not
through
there
its
yet.
due course.
We're not there yet, but I would
But,
not, I would not be surprised if we're at 5%. Or maybe even 6, but, okay, let's
We
not,
won't even get into that dispute later, because I'll tell you one who won't be voting yes for it. But go ahead.
we'll go ahead, let's move on. Let's move on. Parking lot, anything there? We kinda talked a lot about all of that, except ARPA, but we're not there yet. Anybody got any major concerns there? If not, board roundtable, Rick?
I pretty much said, I did have one thing, I should have asked the chief this when he was here. I've had a few people, and maybe you guys are more familiar with it than I am, but up at Stewart's, the crosswalks at Stewart's, and there's some people complaining about them being too dark and not being able to see people in them crosswalks at night, but there's a stop sign there.
Yeah.
But I noticed the streetlights aren't that good there in that area. I wonder if that's what the problem is. Has anybody had any
Go up and look,
thoughts?
what we do with streetlights every other pole. So you may get into a situation there that every other pole from 4 different crosswalks, maybe they all ended
Yeah,
the
two
pole
different-
back or something, I don't know. And I
I've
haven't
had-
even thought about it. It's
I've had
worth
that
a look.
mentioned to me 2 different times in just the last few weeks. And I said, I don't see an issue up there myself.
I drive by it all the time, so I'm
That's
trying to.
that's what I'm asking. I'm asking.
And
You're
the first
used to
time
it.
I've heard it's an issue, but I might be blind to it because
You're
I
used to
drive
it.
right through it
Yeah,
all the
you're-
time.
But there is
They
a
make
stop
it so
sign,
bright. It's a residential neighborhood, you're gonna give the people
right?
You
suntans
turn
on their
on,
eyeballs.
the people in the inn sitting on the corner, if you break
I
that
just-
up like the sunshine, I'm got a feeling we'll have a business owner down here wondering what the heck we're doing. But,
He'll be too tired.
oh, God,
Should be
true.
But there is stop sign, it's a
Yeah.
4-way stop. and-
Yeah, it's a 4-way stop and it's caution light and, but,
That's, I'll keep my ears
but I-
open.
yeah,
because I haven't-
just,
With the exception of the yield.
You're right. But I go through there in the morning, so. I'll
that's
take
all
that.
I really have. I mean, I've been surveying sidewalk streets with bad sidewalks and they're all bad, so I don't know, we'll have to see what we can do about a grant or something at some point here.
Oh, I don't have much. I appreciated what Lyle Jepson brought to the table. I think if there's a way to think about how we want to welcome the families that they invite into Rutland County, I think, gee, you know, if we're going to invest some money into Cedar and continue this weekend getaway marketing thing, I think we want to have people at the Fairhaven door to say, hey, welcome, we'll show you around town. You know, 4 families and how many different towns in Rutland County kind of competing for their move. You know, I think we want to consider that. And then that goes back to conversations that I've had previously about marketing our area more. How can we better leverage our time with and our resources with Cedar to put us in a pretty good position as kind of a starting point for any marketing that we do. So that's all I have.
like to have us be able to hand somebody a folder, you know, not, you know, smaller, but as slick as this, that says, here's Fairhaven, this is what we have, average housing prices, school ratings, all that kind of thing, just so somebody, I mean, the other thing where the website will come into play is when we can do that on the website, so that's,
I think once that website's up, will make a difference for most of these folks, and the school can be promoted as better than average and that type of thing. The housing is an issue. It's a real drawback, and we need to see what we can do about getting some of these.
the real estate is, it's good real estate here.
It is, but there's not much of it.
But, no, but it's reasonably priced, and you are not far from anything, and let's face it, we're a bedroom community,
Right.
we're not gonna get the next GE.
Well, I think being on the right track of trying to spruce up these homes and get more of these homes livable is a very large step in the right direction.
I have nothing.
All right, I have, I don't know if you guys saw the email from Danny Laramie today, about the preparations that they're making for voting. And one of the things that is, if there's a challenge, if there's a legitimate challenge, they have to get the BCA together then. So be prepared to get a call.
What you're saying, it might be a
An emergency
911
meeting,
BCA,
yeah.
okay.
I asked her if she wanted to warn a BCA meeting just to be and say, I'm gonna, she didn't think so.
Would that be on election night?
Yeah. They have to be able to vote. And if there's somebody challenges that person, then the BCA has to rule. She may be able to do some of that, but I don't think she can do it all from what she sent us.
There's been some of this on the news the last few days. I guess there's some real issues in
Well, I mean,
places.
there's some crazies around, Arizona and stuff, and all those guys we're not there. And she's not overly concerned, but I'd just be prepared. We may get a call. It's a possibility. And the other thing to think about, as long as we're talking about budget, and I haven't made my mind up how I think about this yet, but Joe bought a roadside mower, and he's contracting it out to other towns. And whether or not that's something we want to consider, it's a little dicey because he's the town manager here, whether we contract with him to do that kind of thing. Your input is important, but it's more of a, does it pass the smell test more than anything? So just think about it.
If you put it out for open, if you put our roadside mowing out for an open bid,
Right.
and we followed a process, I go,
Then
okay.
it wouldn't be a problem.
So he's doing this as he's furnishing an operator.
I think it's him, but, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
So he's offering it as a weekly rental or with or without operator.
Oh, is it okay? I didn't know. I just want,
But
I want that option to be out there, and I want everybody to know, and I don't know.
Even the appearance of a conflict of
yeah.
interest
I
should
agree.
be avoided at all.
I agree.
At all.
I agree.
I know I'm heart in the right place and probably wants to help, but I'm saying can't even have the appearance of a conflict of interest. The fact that we even have to talk about it almost gives you the answer to the question of whether you should do it or not. But that's me.
It's definitely, it's definitely hinky. Not because he's trying to push something or anything like that, it's just that it's.
No, I think I think his heart's in the right place, I really
Right.
do.
But I,
But I know what you're saying about that.
I think if it's a rental, you have less to be concerned about.
right,
Yeah.
and,
As long as he's consistent with, you know, the price.
Well, yeah, I mean, his price is 2,000 a week or 3,500 for 2 weeks. I don't know where that
For the
comes
rental.
for the rental. So I don't know where that comes from, that's his price that he said he's giving everybody else, but.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's,
Did he send us that paperwork, or did he just give it?
no, he didn't, he feels uncomfortable about it too, so it's not like, it's not like it's
How much did we pay for our week that we had this year?
3,500.
3,500 a week. Well, the other thing is.
A week or 2 weeks?
A week,
A week.
50 hours.
So, I mean, he has the advantage of knowing what the price was too, so, but,
on so many levels, I'm saying there's some things you shouldn't touch. I don't think this is one you should touch. But that's,
and it's something we'll talk about again when we go through the budget, but I would bring it out there so it's on the up and up.
mhm. Ready for the,
Yep.
Okay, let's, I'll make a motion to approve payroll of $34,789.09.
Okay, now, I don't have it yet, so can you
Oh.
repeat?
I'm sorry.
Slowly.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll of $34,789.09.
Thank you.
There's a second.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant of $86,261.08.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And the checkbook status,
I got that.
is a $2,119,880.20.
And I will ask the question that I ask on a regular basis. What is the program that allows us to be that far above the insurance rate of, like,
That's a good question.
because $2 million laying around in one account scares the heck out of me. We
We have-
lost, go ahead.
It's, yeah, right, I mean, and I don't wanna ask, my understanding was why you get those big numbers, is some of it is because of how we're getting the federal money from the
Right.
project we're just finishing up, and how the monies are paid out, and how we went, you know how we sat with zero, a negative number? I'm just as concerned when we had that, when I had to announce the negative number that we
Well-
had, and then everything came,
I mean, my fear is that having to announce that we did something like what happened to Benson several years ago when they lost a ton of money because it was over the federally insured number.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. So there's supposedly a program that municipalities are in, but I just want, every once in a while I need somebody to tell me it's okay.
I will call and find out.
Yeah, because it's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary weird. And if something happened,
there must be a school.
I would not want to be the one to have to tell people in the town of Fairhaven, we just lost $2 million because the bank went out. You know,
Yeah, none of us would, we probably wouldn't have John.
no, we'd have to do what we were choking from nooses out in the middle of the park. Yeah.
Okay. Ready for
Right.
my, I'll go into executive. Okay, I'll make a motion to go in executive session for an officer appointment discussion, 1 VSA 313A3. And also, I have a legal discussion under 1 VSA 313A1.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.